Hey, it's great to be here today, and when I was talking to Buddy about coming down here, he said, I'm going to pick a good week for you. He said, South Carolina's going to be coming off a big win, and Clemson's going to probably get after Georgia, and so really I'm not going to have anything to talk about because neither one of those things happened. First of all, I want to say it's a real privilege to be here on the dais with Coach Jeffrey. I've always had a lot of respect for him as a coach and what he paved the way for so many young men and student athletes, and congratulations on your being in the Hall of Fame. Coach Dick Sheridan's a guy that I've always had a lot of respect for when he was at Furman and at State. The two things we got in common, he was at State and turned down Georgia, and I was at Georgia and I turned down State. Both of us are here today, so I don't know what that means. And Coach Pugh, known him for a long time, and he's very fortunate to have a guy that has a stature in this neck of the woods of Coach Pugh. Whenever we had to recruit against South Carolina, and we knew that he was recruiting the guys, I mean, he'd come into Georgia and take some of our players, and Rodney Garner was always recruiting the same guys, and it's just good to have a guy in this community, and you look at what he's done for your program, look what he's done building up this club like this, and it speaks volumes for how much you believe in this program. And I want to congratulate the high school guys and the families here today because, we need more people playing high school football. It's too easy to quit. It's too easy not to play. And you guys did show some leadership, and I'm glad to see the coaches out here and the support you're giving this club, bringing people in and recognize them every week, because high school football is the blood of the world. We got to keep it going, keep encouraging these coaches, and keep supporting them. I'm going to tell you a few stories today because it's always good to reflect on what you did and where you've been and all. Then I'm going to get into a little bit of prognostication and tell you about what's going on in college football and what I think is happening with the division playoffs now that we got. And one of the things that you do when you coach a lot, you go around to different places and you hear a lot of good stories, and you're involved in a lot of different stories. And 2 years ago, and this could probably be true in most schools, but University of Tennessee just got a new coach, and as you know, when you get a new coach, you get new families, a lot of people moving in there, and so this one little boy, one of the coaches was in the second grade, and the teacher said, "Do you know who wrote the Declaration of Independence?" He said, "I don't know, and I don't give a damn." The teacher said, "Now wait a minute now. You just can't talk like this. We're here in Knoxville, Tennessee. You can't talk like that." I said, "Who's your daddy?" He said, "Well, he's one of the coaches out in Tennessee." Said, "All right, we're going to bring him in." So they bring him in there and said, "Listen, Coach, we want to get off to a good start. Your son came in here and is using wrong language, and I just want you to listen to this tape." So he said, "All right, put it on there." He said, "Who wrote the Declaration of Independence?" "I don't know, and I don't give a damn." He said, "Wait just a minute, I'll take care of it." Takes this little kid out in the hall. He said, "Johnny, if you wrote that thing, you need to tell us." Everybody gets a physical once in a while, and there's this lady up in Athens that worked out a lot. I'm glad to see this group sponsoring us here. We're talking about workouts. She was 80 years old. She went in for a physical, and the doctor said, "I just can't believe it. 80 years old. It's unbelievable what physical shape you're in. It's just a marvel here to be in that kind of condition." So I just need to ask you one thing. Do you still have sexual intercourse? She said, "Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute." So she walks out in the lobby, and old Charlie, her husband's over there. There's about 35 people in there. She said, "Hey, Charlie, do we still have sexual intercourse?" He said, "I've told you 50 times it's Blue Cross Blue Shield." When I got the marshal job, one of the deals that I was supposed to be doing was help the seniors that had the previous coach, and they were all looking for jobs. And this one kid wanted to get into law enforcement. So I called up the local sheriff. I said, "Look," he said, I don't really know a lot about this kid. I didn't coach him, but he wants to be a sheriff. Can you help him out?" He said, yeah, I'll help him out. So he goes in there and he said, okay, son, you played for Marshall, and I'm glad to have a Marshall backer here. He was sitting over there. Where'd he go? Oh, there you go. Okay. So he said, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. He said, give me 2 days of the week that begin with T. He said, okay, today and tomorrow. He said, well, that's a pretty good start. He said, I want you to get this job. He said, how much is 1 and 1? He said, well, if you put a 1 here and a 1 here, that's 11. He said, well, I don't know. Okay. He said, I'm going to ask you a technical question now. Who shot Abraham Lincoln? He said, well, I really don't know. He said, well, hey, we want you to get this job. You know, come back tomorrow and maybe you can answer the question. So this kid had just gotten married, had a new wife. He went home and she said, how'd that interview go? He said, it went great. They already got me working on a murder case. You know, there were two people, ironically, getting ready to go into, they were in prison. They were getting ready to go to be executed. One was from Tennessee and one was from Georgia. And Gordon came in and said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you one last request for each of you. The guy from Tennessee said, I want to hear Rocky Top one more time. The guy from Georgia said, kill me first. You know, when I coached in Oklahoma, we had a good program. We won 28 straight Big 8 games, won the national championship, beat Nebraska 4 years in a row, Texas 4 years in a row. We had a lot of good players. And one of the big games, everybody talks about Georgia, Florida. You know what a big game that is. Every year you play down in Jacksonville, and half the stadiums for Georgia, half for Florida. Same thing's true with the OU Texas game. I mean, just tremendous pageantry. It's right there in the state of Texas. They had the state fair there. And, you know, it's life or death game for both teams. I mean, you know, for all of us, it was just an unbelievable experience. Well, the second year I was coaching there, we were ahead 31-0 at half. Unbelievable, inexplicable that we could be beating Texas like this. So I'm trying to figure out as offensive coach how we're going to go in there at half and, you know, bear down a little bit, make sure we don't lose our focus and all that. We get in there at halftime and Coach Switzer calls them up and says, hey, everybody up, everybody up. So I'm thinking he's going to say, look, we can't really let off the gas. We got to keep going. We got to do this. He said, here's what I want you to do. I want everybody to take your shoulder pads off. We're going down on the sideline. We're going to watch a halftime show. I said, Coach, you can't do that. I said, that's the meaning to that team. We can't do that. He said, I've been coming to this game for 18 years as a head coach and as an assistant coach, and everybody tells me what a great halftime show. We're kicking their butt 31-0. I don't care. We're going to go watch a halftime show. So we went down there. I've never seen a halftime show. It was good. I'm sitting down there watching it. Well, our team loses to Miami during the season, so we're not getting to play for the national championship and defend it. But we go down to the Orange Bowl, which was a great trip, and we're playing Arkansas. And before the game started, our quarterback, Jamel Holloway, goes up to Switzer and said, hey, Coach, they got cool in the game playing at halftime. We're kicking their butt. Can we go watch it? So we watched 2 halftime shows that year. That's the only 2 I've ever seen to this day as a coach. But it's unbelievable. Can you believe a college team take off the pads and go in there? You ever done that, Coach? I tell you, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to be ahead, too. I got that Marshall job, and you can imagine if you've been in Oklahoma and then all of a sudden you move down a run, so to speak, in 1AA, and a lot of good coaches in 1AA, Furman, Georgia Southern, and everything. But, you know, our travel budget wasn't anything near what I thought it was going to be. And our first road trip was against BMI, about 4 hours from Huntington. So our AD says we can't spend the night. We got to go the day of the game. We're taking 2 buses that I promise you Lewis and Clark had. These buses were so old that I was afraid the doors were going to fall off of them. But we're driving there through the mountains, and one of the buses breaks down. And this is 1990. We didn't have cell phones back then, but we did have some walkie-talkies. And the guy said, hey, Coach, defensive bus broke down. So I said, okay, we got to turn around and go back. This is my first big decision as a head coach now. I got to figure out who I'm going to take to the game. Because, we're about an hour and a half from there, and we've already eaten the pregame meal. Game's going to be on, and we got to start getting dressed and everything. And the game's about 2.5 hours from now. So I said, okay, we're going to take first team offense, first team defense, a couple kickers, a couple coaches from each side, and a couple guys that can play, as backups. Get them on the bus and let's get down there. And I said, the rest of you guys are going to stay with Coach Matthews and you're going to thumb to the game. Because I know there's a lot of people from Marshall going to be driving down here and they'll pick you up. So that's a pretty good move, I thought. So we get to the game, and all of a sudden, we're getting ready to go out to warm-ups, and everybody's there. Matthews comes in. I said, hey. I said, everybody get here? He said, yeah, everybody's here but 4 guys. He said, I was the last one to leave, and I know they picked them up. I said, well, where are they at? He said, I don't know. So we started searching around and everything. Now, I've been telling you some pretty good jokes and all, but this is serious business right here where I'm getting ready to take. This is complete, honest truth. Those 4 guys were in the parking lot tailgating with the people out there. So today you've heard about people watching the halftime and coaches, and you got 4 players who go to the damn game and they're tailgating. They figured that they weren't going to get to play much, I'm sure of that. It was amazing. I always like to talk a little bit about the fact that, from a coaching standpoint, you get a chance to coach some really good players. I had a chance to coach Keith Jackson, Brian Bosworth, Troy Aikman. One of the most difficult things that ever happened to me, everybody knows Troy Aikman, #1 draft choice in the College Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In his sophomore year at Oklahoma, he breaks his leg against Miami. Well, this is my first year coaching at OU, and we don't have anybody who can throw the ball. We were trying to make a move throwing the ball, so we got to go back to the wishbone. And so we put Jamel Holloway in. We win the rest of the game to win the national championship. So I had to go in and tell Troy, I said, hey, Troy, realistically, you're probably the best guy I'll ever coach. Got the best arm. But to be fair to you, you probably need to transfer. And boy, he talked about a tough deal. Looked like a complete idiot, but we were going to stay with the wishbone. We ended up winning a lot of games. I'm still friends with Troy today, but here's a coach that got the #1 draft choice in America to transfer. But it was the best for him, and I'm glad it worked out, and he turned out pretty good. Then I'm coaching at Marshall. I recruit Randy Moss and Chad Pennington, and 2 pretty good players. And left them for Coach Pruitt, and they didn't lose a game for 2 years. So I don't know if I was too smart leaving, but you get a chance to coach some pretty good players over the years. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about college football now and my take on it, and then we might can answer some questions. First of all, in the SEC, I don't know what happened in South Carolina. If I could stand up here and tell you, I'm sure a lot of the Carolina fans here would like me to go over and see my friend Steve and tell them, but I've seen a lot of kids in their first game, but for this guy to come in there and play like that at Williams-Brice, it's just unbelievable, really. Everybody around the country is talking about it because, I'm sure we got the press here today, and they're probably going to quote me, but realistically, Texas A&M probably the 4th or 5th best team in the West coming into the season. They couldn't stop anybody last year. I promise you I'm not shaking up here. This thing here just moves. I promise you I'm ready to see, it's moving right here. Come on, make it move, everybody. So we're not in California, no earthquakes coming here, are we? But realistically, for that kid to come in there and play like that, and their defense, Mark Snyder's a defensive coordinator for A&M, and he used to be the coach at Marshall. He told me, he said, we got some good young players, they just hadn't shaped yet, but we're going to be pretty good on defense. And they came in there and just, I don't think there's anybody in this room that can't tell you that you're just astounded, because South Carolina's good. Got a good team. Defensively, lost some good players, but you know, they got some good players there too, but I don't think it's the end of the world, but it's pretty close when you get beat like that. I mean, wow. I mean, but who's to know what's going to happen? But it's a good example. This guy, Kevin Sumlin, he did it at Purdue as an assistant coach. He came to visit us when we were in Georgia. He had Drew Brees. He went to Houston. He had Case Keenum. They lit it up there, and then he got to Texas A&M. He got Johnny Football. Now this guy, they know what they're doing. But, you know, he's probably going to be coaching in the pros in another year or two. But they really have a good team, and they do what they understand how to throw the ball. They understand how to protect, and their defense is much better. As far as the other side of the state, Clemson against Georgia, I'm as surprised as you are. Whatever they told them at halftime wasn't what they should have. I mean, you talk about halftime adjustments. Realistically, though, I thought second half, the way Clemson moved the ball, they were going to come out the second half and just get after them. And, you know, they had some poor field position, but somebody, Mike Bobo played for me, and somebody sent him a memo at halftime that they need to get the ball to Gurley. I was pretty smart. But you don't have any idea how good that kid is. You go out and watch him practice. I still get to go over there and watch him, and this guy is a human missile. He weighs about 230, but he's really fast. He got a great kid. He got hurt last year, but he's just going to be a phenom, I think, to keep him healthy. But Georgia's going to play South Carolina in 2 weeks. I promise you, Georgia's got a good young defensive coordinator, Jeremy Pruitt, and he's doing a really good job putting that program together. But they don't have the defensive personnel, I promise you, that you've been used to seeing at Georgia. Linebackers are good. Secondary's all new. A lot of young players. Same thing with their front. So South Carolina's going to, you'll be surprised. I think that's going to be a tight football game. So my analogy here is I don't think Georgia is near as good as what everybody thinks they are. I think they're really good. And I don't think Clemson is as bad as everybody thinks they are. I think they're pretty good. They're not anywhere near they were last year because of their offense. I had a chance to see that kid from Gainesville play. I hope he doesn't play a lot against you Saturday, Coach. He was about 50 miles from us, and I saw him play a lot last year, and he's a good young player. But you don't lose guys like Sammy Watkins and just snap your hands and put a guy in there for him. Doug Marrone is the coach of Buffalo, is one of my coaches. I got 9 assistant coaches and 1 head coach that coached for me in the pros. And one of the things that I was really impressed when I went up to talk to their team and watch them practice this summer was the kind of guy that Sammy Watkins was and Spiller was. And they're very proud to be Clemson graduates, and they're very classy kids. We'll see what happens with Clemson. I mean, they got a tough schedule. I think Florida State's the cream of the crop. I mean, they played a pretty good Oklahoma State team, and you know, they won, but they didn't drill them. But I look for Florida State to win the ACC. Alabama, Auburn, to me, are kind of the 2 best in the West. Maybe A&M will keep coming. Watch out for Mississippi State. They got a great quarterback. Very good defense. On the eastern side, watch out for Florida. I think all of you here that watch college football know what kind of talent Florida has. Last year they had as many first-team guys go down as I've ever remembered anybody. And they had a terrible year, but they got a good quarterback. They just hired a guy from Duke that's going to do a good job on their offense. So I think Florida's pretty much a sleeper in the East. And we'll see what happens to South Carolina and Georgia. I think, obviously, the winner of that game going to be in really good shape. If South Carolina loses that, I mean, you're pretty much out of it with 2 losses. On the national scene, we're going to see some really good games this weekend. UCLA last week didn't look that great against Virginia, but anytime you come all the way across the country, it's hard to play a game like that. We're going to see USC and Stanford. That should be a heck of a game. And then the big game of the week, to me, is going to be Oregon playing Michigan State. Michigan State got a really good defense, a pretty good quarterback, but I look for Oregon playing at home to have a really good shot of taking that game. Now I'll be glad to